I want you to understand something before I tell you the rest. When I walked into family court that Tuesday morning, I was not there to fight. I had stopped believing I could win anything a long time ago. I was there to end it, to sign my name, give up the house. Give up the fight, and walk out with nothing but the child I was carrying. That was the plan. Survive the morning. Sign. Disappear. I moved slowly down that marble hallway, one hand pressed flat against the small of my back, the other clutching a folder so thick the clasp wouldn't close. 8 months pregnant does something to your body that no one warns you about. It makes you feel like you're apologizing just by taking up space. And that courthouse air was so cold and so still that I remember thinking, nobody in this building knows my name, and not one of them cares. My name is Nora. And for 6 years I had been married to a man named Grant Vale. Maybe you've heard of him. In Portland, in certain rooms, he was somebody. Founder and CEO of a software company that the business magazines liked to call disruptive. He gave talks. He sat on charity boards. He could walk into a room of strangers and have them eating out of his hand in 4 minutes flat. I'd watched him do it 100 times. Grant could sell warmth to anyone. He just couldn't seem to bring any of it home. My lawyer wasn't there. That morning, 20 minutes before we were due in front of the judge. I'd gotten a voicemail, a scheduling conflict, filed the night before by Grant's legal team. A last-minute motion, timed so precisely that it couldn't have been anything but deliberate. And that was the thing about Grant. Nothing he did was ever an accident. Every move was a move. I sat down alone at the respondent's table, folded my hands over my belly, and tried to breathe the way the birthing class had taught me. In through the nose. Hold. Out. Then the doors opened, and he walked in. Charcoal suit, cut so close it looked painted on. That easy, bored expression, like he was walking into a quarterly earnings call. And not the legal end of a marriage. And on his arm, because of course she was on his arm, was Sabrina. Sabrina had started at his company as an operations coordinator. Then she was his executive partner. Now she didn't need a title at all. She wore cream to a divorce hearing, cream, like she was going to a christening, and her hand rested on Grant's forearm with the calm confidence of a woman who had already been told how the morning was going to go. Grant leaned toward me as he passed. Close enough that only I could hear. You're nothing, he said softly, almost pleasantly. Sign the papers and disappear. Honestly, you should be grateful I'm letting you walk away with anything at all. 6 years. 6 years of my life. And that was the voice I'd learned to organize my whole world around, that quiet, reasonable, poisonous voice that could make cruelty sound like a favor. I made myself answer. My voice shook, but I got the words out. I'm not asking for anything unreasonable, Grant. Child support. The house is in both our names. I just need something stable for the baby. Sabrina laughed, loud enough that people turned. Fair, she repeated, tilting her head like the word amused her. You trapped him with a pregnancy and now you want a house. You should be thanking him. Something in me went very still. Don't talk about my child. I didn't see her hand move. I only felt it, the crack of her palm across my face, hard enough to snap my head sideways. Hard enough that I tasted copper on the inside of my cheek. The sound of it echoed off the courtroom walls like a gunshot. For 1 full second, the room froze. And Grant, my husband, the father of the child kicking inside me, did not move. He didn't flinch. A small smile touched the corner of his mouth. Maybe now you'll listen, he murmured. I stood there shaking, one hand on my belly, the other pressed to my burning cheek. And I looked around that room for a single person who might help me. The bailiff was near the doors, half turned away. My lawyer's chair was empty. And the bench, the judge's bench, was still unoccupied. You should cry louder, Sabrina whispered, leaning in so I could smell her perfume. Maybe the judge will feel sorry for you. That was the moment I decided to stop being quiet. Not out of courage, I want to be honest about that. I wasn't brave. I was just finally, completely out of anything left to lose. I lifted my eyes toward the bench, ready to say out loud the thing I'd swallowed for years, that the man I married was dangerous, and I was afraid of him. And then the judge came in. And he looked at me. And every drop of color drained out of his face. I knew that face. I had grown up across the breakfast table from that face. I had those same eyes, the exact same shade of gray. I'd seen them narrow at me when I was 7 and lying about a broken window. Seen them go soft at my high school graduation. Seen them for the last time 4 years ago in a parking lot. Before Grant decided my family were small people with small lives and slowly, patiently, cut every one of them out of mine. Judge Samuel Whitfield. My brother, Sam. I hadn't spoken to him in 4 years. Not since Grant started scheduling our holidays over his corporate retreats. Intercepting my calls, reminding me, gently, always so gently, that my family made me smaller, that they held me back. That he was all I really needed. Until one day I looked up and realized I hadn't heard my brother's voice in so long that I'd started to forget the sound of it. And now here he was, in a black robe, staring at the red handprint blooming on his little sister's face. Order, Sam said. His voice cracked on the second syllable. Grant straightened. Confidence intact. He still thought this was his room. Sabrina smirked and settled back into her chair. Sam leaned forward slowly, and when he spoke again, his voice had changed into something I'd never heard from him before. Low, and flat, and terrifyingly calm. Bailiff, he said. Close the doors. The heavy courtroom doors swung shut with a deep, final boom, and I watched the sound land on Grant's face. The bailiff moved to stand in front of them, one hand drifting toward his radio. And for the first time in 6 years, I saw my husband's smile falter. Your Honor, Grant began, smooth as ever, spreading his hands. I apologize for the commotion. My wife is, as you can see, very emotional. Pregnancy hormones. We're really only here for a simple, uncontested dissolution. Sam's eyes came up off the paper and settled on him. Do not, he said quietly, talk about her body in my courtroom. Sabrina rolled her eyes and muttered, can we please move this along? She's obviously playing the victim. Sam turned to her, and his voice dropped even further. Ms., he glanced at the paperwork. Did you just strike the respondent in my courtroom? She walked into me, Sabrina said, chin up. That is not an answer. He looked at the court reporter. Let the record reflect visible swelling and bleeding on the respondent's face. Grant shifted in his seat. Your Honor, I really don't think enough. Sam raised one hand, and the room went silent. He looked at me then, and I watched him do the hardest thing I've ever seen a person do. I watched my brother push his own heart down into his chest and reach for the only tool the law had given him. He kept his voice professional. Neutral. Stretched thin as wire. Ma'am, he said, as though he didn't know my middle name. As though he hadn't taught me to ride a bike, are you requesting the protection of this court? My heart was slamming so hard I thought the baby could feel it. Every fear I had ever swallowed rose up in my throat. That they'd twist it, that they'd dismiss it, that speaking would only make it worse. And then my baby kicked. Hard. Right under my ribs. Like a reminder that silence wasn't free anymore. That silence had a price, and my child would be the one to pay it. Yes, I whispered. And then, louder, steadier than I'd said anything in years. Yes, Your Honor. He's threatened me. He controls all our money. He told me I'd regret it if I fought him. Grant scoffed. This is absurd. She's fantasizing. Sam didn't even look at him. Are you safe in your home? No. My voice broke on the word. He changed the locks 3 weeks ago. He froze my access to our accounts. I've been sleeping on my friend's couch. When I could. Sabrina laughed, a short, ugly sound. God, so dramatic. Sam's head turned toward her with a slowness that made the whole room hold its breath. One more sound out of you, he said, and I will hold you in contempt and you will spend the night in a cell. Do you understand me? Grant's own lawyer finally rose, buttoning his jacket. Your Honor, with respect, an alleged domestic issue is outside the scope of a dissolution hearing. It becomes the scope, Sam said, the second a pregnant woman is assaulted in front of me. He paused. And then he said the 4 words. The 4 words I'd been too afraid to even hope for. Mr. Vale, you'll stay. Grant blinked. Excuse me? You will remain in this courtroom, Sam said, while I issue immediate orders. You do not have my permission to leave. You can't do that, Grant snapped, and for the first time, the polish cracked, and I heard the thing underneath, the temper, the entitlement. The man who had never once in his life been told no by someone who could enforce it. Sam leaned forward until the light caught the gray in his eyes. Our eyes. Watch me, he said. What happened over the next 20 minutes, I will remember for the rest of my life. Sam called in courthouse security. He issued an emergency protective order barring Grant from contacting me by any means. He granted me sole and immediate use of our home and ordered the locks changed back that afternoon at Grant's expense. He froze every disputed asset pending a forensic accounting. And when Sabrina opened her mouth one final time, I don't even remember what she said, he had her taken into custody on the spot for the assault and for contempt. I will never forget the sound of her screaming about her manicure as the cuffs went on. Grant just stood there. Stripped of his script. Stripped of his audience. For 6 years he had been the smartest, smoothest man in every room he entered, and now he was standing in a room where his charm was worth nothing at all. In front of witnesses who had just watched the mask come off. But here's the part one never told anyone. The part that matters. I want you to know that the folder, that thick folder I'd been clutching in the hallway. The one whose clasp wouldn't close, I want you to know what was in it. Because I hadn't just come to sign and disappear. I'd said that to myself so I could get out of bed. But some quieter, colder part of me had spent the previous 2 months getting ready. In that folder were bank statements, highlighted, showing the $80,000 Grant had drained from our savings over the past year, most of it vanishing into a sports betting account I'd never known existed. There were the records for a credit card he'd opened in my name, without my signature, and maxed out. There were text messages. There were photographs. There was a letter from a lawyer. Not the one who'd conveniently canceled that morning, but a real one, a good one, whom I'd been quietly meeting in a coffee shop across the river for 8 weeks. Paid for out of a small account Grant never knew I had opened the week I found the first lie. I had walked in there believing I was powerless. But powerless people don't build folders. Somewhere underneath the fear, a part of me had already decided to survive. I just hadn't known, until my brother looked up from that bench, that I wouldn't have to do it alone. When the courtroom finally emptied, when the security officers had walked Grant out and the door had closed for the last time, Sam came down off the bench. He didn't do it as a judge. He crossed the room and he put his arms around me, careful of the baby. And I felt his whole body shaking. Nora, he whispered into my hair. I'm here. I should have come sooner. I should have fought harder to find you. I'm so sorry. And I cried. Not the way I'd cried for 6 years, quietly, in bathrooms, into pillows, apologizing for the noise. I cried the way you cry when you finally set down something you've been carrying so long you forgot it was heavy. Outside, on the courthouse steps, there were already a couple of reporters. Someone always hears when a man like Grant Vale has a bad morning. I didn't stop for them. I walked down those steps into the cold Portland air. My brother's coat around my shoulders, and I breathed, really breathed, for the first time since I could remember. Grant was served with the fraud charges the following Monday, at his office, in front of his staff. The betting account and the credit card in my name were not, it turned out, things you could talk your way out of. The company board asked for his resignation within the month. Sabrina took a plea. The house was mine. My daughter was born 11 weeks later, on a rainy morning, and my brother was in the waiting room the whole time. He was the second person to hold her. He cried again. He's not embarrassed about it. I named her Ruth, after our mother, the mother Grant had told me was small. The mother I'd let him take from me, the mother I called the day after the hearing and talked to for 3 hours. People ask me, sometimes, if I regret waiting so long. If I'm angry at myself for the years I gave to him. For how quiet I let myself become. And I used to be. But I've made my peace with it. And here's what I've landed on, so I'll leave you with it. Cruelty depends on silence. It needs you to believe your pain is too small to mention, that asking for help is the same as weakness. That you have to earn the right to be safe. That's the whole trick. That's the only power it has over you. And the moment you say the true thing out loud, even in a shaking voice, even 8 months pregnant and alone in a cold room, the story stops being theirs and starts being yours again. I walked into that courtroom certain I was nothing. I walked out a mother, a sister, and a woman who would never again apologize for taking up space. Say the true thing. Say it out loud. You never know who's about to look up.